Hi everyone, welcome to the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. I'm Tom Kreager, high school sports editor at the Tennessean, joined by Ingle Martin, CPA, football coach. Coach, thanks for the show. It's a weird setup this year going virtual, but I'm glad you're able to take a few minutes.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
So Coach, you're 2-0 going into a big game with Ensworth. But before we get there, just how hard has it been for you to navigate through this season so far? So far, you've been able to play your first two of the first three games. One game was canceled due to weather, but how difficult is it week to week so far?
Well, obviously, I think the biggest challenge has been just being okay with change. You know, when I'm watching last night and they're announcing Oklahoma State and Tulsa are pushing a game back, I think all of us high school coaches can be okay with change. Our week one game got canceled, had to scramble, found Riverdale. Week two, tried to play, get the rain out. Week three had already been canceled, found Bartlett. And week four, this is the third team in a row that we played that it's their first game. So everything's out of the ordinary. Everything's not normal. And the biggest thing is I think it's given us all perspective. You know, our team and our coaches and our community just very thankful for the opportunity to play each week. And so whether it was against Riverdale or last week against Bartlett and hopefully Friday against Ensworth, we're just very grateful for the opportunity to play and to be together and have some normalcy.
Coach, Ensworth, like I said, their first game of the season. I guess you can look at a lot of film from last year, but for the most part, there's a big unknown. You don't know anything about them. You don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They're a different team from a year ago with what they lost with graduation.
Yeah, we don't know anything. The only thing we know is that their head coach is Rock Batten, and fortunately for us, we've competed against Coach Batten when he was at BGA, and that's kind of what we're looking at. If they come out in a brand new defense, we'll chalk it up to 2020. So, the biggest thing is a chance to play, without having preseason games. We've really looked at these first 3 or 4 weeks as opportunity to get ready for our region play, which starts the week after this. So we're excited. Again, it's just a chance to go out and compete and very thankful.
In talking to you, of course, we've talked a lot via text or phone this early season. You've just wanted to fill games. I mean, when you lose ECS and you lose another game, you're just simply like, hey, we just need to find someone to play because you want to keep this team playing as much as possible because no one really knows. I think it's starting to look better for the season, but no one really knows how long we'll be able to play this year.
Yeah, there's no question. I think most people in the state have taken that approach where anything that they can get, they want to get. Everyone's trying to work out and move mountains, to be able to play football games. And it's great to be out there. That first Friday night was a really weird feeling, just not having any preseason games, only a couple weeks of practice. And it was, everyone's time clock was thrown off. But I think the longer that it's gone, the more normal things are feeling. And today feels like a normal Tuesday, getting ready to have our long practice day and excited again for this opportunity.
I was able to go to practice preseason and was really impressed with the development of your quarterback, Cade Law. Can you just talk about how he's progressed and what he brings to y'all?
Yeah, Cade's a tremendous competitor. His attributes, just the physical ones, are very impressive. And then when you start counting the stuff that he does when the game's on the line or when it's 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, the guy wants to have the ball. And anytime you got a guy that's playing quarterback that has those intangibles, it's definitely going to make your team better. But, he's gone from a 5'11 and a half, 190-pounder last year. He's now 6'1", 215. Has done everything he can to make himself physically fit, physically ready to play the game. And then really his arm strength, everything's increased in the last year. And so we're very thankful to have him. Had some great plays against Bartlett Friday night. And, with any quarterback, we feel like he's been starting for a long time, but he's still, only going into his 3rd game as a junior. And I can reflect back on my own career and I was still seeing ghosts, like Sam Darnold said on Monday Night Football when he was playing the Patriots. When I was in high school, I was seeing ghosts like that. And so trying to make sure that Cade feels good about what we're doing with the game plan each week and just giving him practice. And every rep, I can tell he's getting better.
playing the 6A, I mean, you really have a 6A schedule, Coach. I mean, you've already played, I think, 2, and I think you've got Ravenwood and Brentwood still on there as well. I mean, it's going to make you better if you can survive it.
Yeah, no question. We lost Independence. I hated to lose that game. Got Ensworth and then Brentwood and Ravenwood. And so for us, opportunity to compete, opportunity to play against really good coaching staffs. Ravenwood and Brentwood have been 2 of the best in 6A for several years, especially in Middle Tennessee. And so, to have those games, our community people, they love playing Brentwood and Ravenwood and Independence. Obviously a lot of our kids are in Williamson County. So it's definitely going to be a great run, those non-region games.
Coach, you like you said, you lost Independence. Is there any way to get a 10th game back, or with your fall break, is it just not conducive to play during fall break with everything going on with your kids on fall break?
The only way we can do it is if I can work out some Gary Rankin magic. We played them in the championship several years in a row, and one year I think they played like a Monday game and a Thursday or a Friday game or something like that, crazy, or maybe a Thursday and a Saturday, and they won both games by 50. And so unless I can do that, I don't know. And so right now we play Ravenwood on a Thursday night. That would be the only possibility of adding someone that week on a Saturday. Everything else is lined up for Friday. Our fall break, we're probably going to just keep, because our school, it affects 1,300 kids. And so we're going to probably keep that and let the families have some downtime, some vacation time.
Going back to Ensworth, when you look at them, Andre Turrentine, kid going to Ohio State, can do a little bit of everything, really good in the secondary, can also a good receiver, and just as a fast kid. How do you slow him down? I guess you just got to know where he's at defensively and on offense.
Yeah, that kid, I've told anyone that's asking about Ensworth for several years now, I think he's been the best player on their team since he was a sophomore. He knows how to tackle. He's got great athleticism, and he plays hard every snap. I love him. I mean, he's a tremendous athlete. And so we definitely will have to account for him. And the thing about a place like Ensworth, it's a lot bigger than just one player. And Coach Batten has done a great job at anywhere he's been. I worked with him when he was a defensive coordinator. He's been successful at any position he's been put in. And so I think for us, it's going to be going up against a really quality opponent, athleticism-wise, but also a quality opponent with the coaching staff. They've got some really great assistant coaches. They've got the backing of a really strong athletic department, and so it'll be a fun game. And it's turned out to be one of the ones that I think our community loves playing. It's a non-region game, but we're only, as one of our teachers said today, we're only separated by a couple hills. So we're excited to have them Friday night.
Yeah, it's you brought that up. I mean, you're so close to each other. That's great that you guys can play each other, and there's been some really good games between you two schools already. And I mean, they're not too old, but you have had some great games.
Yeah, I think the 2015 game, we got up 14-0 and went into halftime, and they came back and wore us out in the second half and ended up winning. And then we were able to beat them in an overtime game. And so, yeah, it's been fun. Last year wasn't so close. And the year before that wasn't so close. But out of the last 4, there's been 2 really good ones. So this will be one that, again, for our community, we're excited about. For our coaching staff and our players, we know it's the next step towards getting ready for BGA the week after.
Coach, this year's CPA team, there's a lot of players in this starting lineup that started or played a lot for you last year. How much have you seen that growth this year? I mean, like I said, you've mentioned Cade Law, you've got Langston Patterson, you got Maverick Rodriguez, I think Tyler Reed in the backfield. I mean, you've got a lot of people that have seen, especially on the skill side, a lot of people that saw a lot of time.
Yeah, I think experience is huge in 2020, especially. The teams that are having to replace players at skill positions, I think, are the ones that are probably hurting the worst. We're replacing several offensive linemen, but a lot of those kids that played on defense for us last year are back. Quarterbacks back, running backs, receivers. We had one guy that we've been waiting to emerge. We just haven't gotten to play that much. But Reed Williford had a huge game against Bartlett last week. He's another college prospect that really had a great game, and so we're excited about that. It's obviously gives us an advantage having that experience.
Coach, your first home game is going to be a weird first look for you. I mean, obviously we're in 2020 COVID. Are you sold out yet? Are you guys selling them on GoFan, or how are you guys doing tickets this year?
I'll leave that up to Coach Elson. That's the beautiful thing about being at CPA is Mike Elson, our athletic director. Everything outside the lines, that's what he handles. I know that we're really close earlier today. We're excited to be able to get some of our kids in the game. I had a parent tell me that that their child was as excited about coming just to the Friday night football games as they were anything else during the year. And that wasn't a football player, and that wasn't a cheerleader. That was just a kid that's a student in the school. And so when that kind of thing can happen and those kids can come, because all those memories around going to football games with your friends and families having those memories, I think that's the cool thing about a fall in Tennessee. And so we're excited about it. Again, thankful to have the opportunity, excited to have a home game after, we should have had, at least one, that ECS game, but there's no place like the Den in Tennessee. I know there's a lot of great stadiums, but I'm telling you that being down there in that hole with the trees around you and no track around the field and the stands are on top of you, it's a great atmosphere, and we're thankful to have it and excited to host Ensworth.
Coach, I appreciate it. I'll see you Friday night at the Den. Ensworth, first game of the season for them versus 2-0 CPA. Coach, we'll see you Friday night.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Bootleg. Of course, we were just joined by Ingle Martin, CPA football coach. Now I'm joined by Cecil Joyce, high school sports writer at the Daily News Journal. Cecil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Cecil, third week's over. We're entering week 4. I mean, I think everything after this, everything would be happy with what we got. I mean, so far we've made it through this far. I mean, what's your thoughts what are coaches telling you? Are they surprised we've gotten this far?
No, I think as each week goes on, I think coaches are getting more and more comfortable with the fact that the season probably will finish. Yeah. I don't think there's been a lot of major incidences. There's been very few games that had been canceled or postponed or moved. I think this has been on the optimistic end of what everybody was hoping or thought would happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think early on, everyone was like, we just hope we play. We just hope we get some games in, 5-6 games. And now after this week, we'll be four games in and getting close to midway point of the season. And I think a lot of people, of course, there are some people that are waiting to play. Metro Nashville hasn't started, and Shelby County schools haven't started. But I think I've been kind of surprised we've made it this far. I think we're averaging probably about 7 or 8 games canceled a week. That's on top of the Shelby County and Metro games that we know aren't going to play just because they haven't started yet. But I think last week we had 8 games get canceled. We already have 2 get canceled in the state. Clinton has to shut down for 2 weeks. Their games with Meigs County this week's been canceled. And then Fayette Academy, this is their second week of a 2-week quarantine, and their game with Trinity Christian has been canceled. Those are the 2 we know about now. I will say we tend to find out more about Thursday. So if it's just those 2, I know we had about 126 games played in the state last week. That's up about 7 from the week before. So, and that's part of it. Clarksville schools starting. That's probably that in Madison County. But it looks good. It looks, unless something weird happens, it looks like we're going to be able to make it. And the one thing I talked to coaches is that the big thing is, I think everyone knows a quarantine could happen. I think the big thing is, and I think maybe you and I were talking about this, like you just don't want quarantine to happen week 11, week 12. You don't want to have it happen where you're going to miss playoffs. That's going to be the issue.
Well, I think the first 3 weeks have been a pretty big test, and you thought. And I think a lot of us thought that there were going to be a mass amount of teams that are quarantining. It would have happened in these first 3 weeks. Now, granted, like you said, Memphis and Nashville area have not played yet. When they start playing, if they start playing, I think you can see, more games canceled and more issues. But I got to believe that the number of teams quarantined and the number of cases are probably going to get less and less as the season goes on, barring some kind of weird second wave or something we're not expecting.
Yeah. And you mentioned Shelby County and Davidson. I think you add that many games, you're bound to have a couple more, and it may not be them, it's just with more teams playing, you probably may have another team or two in the state quarantine. But, it's kind of the interesting thing. And like you said, you hope a second wave doesn't happen, that we can get through this season. So let's talk about top games. Game of the week this week is going to be Ensworth. Their hosts they're going to CPA this week. Ensworth at CPA. Game of the week. This had Ingle Martin on. This is the first game of the season for Ensworth, and they've got Andre Turrentine, the dynamic playmaker there. Ohio State commitment. He's being recruited as a defensive back there. Can do it all. Return game. Good receiver. Wouldn't be surprised if he runs the ball a little bit this year for him. He could be used a lot of different ways, and they play a CPA team. You've already seen them once. I will be seeing them for the first time. Try to see them in week 2, and Mother Nature said otherwise. So what's your thoughts on CPA?
Everything I saw from them on week 1 and the scores I've seen since then, they look like one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the state, any classification. Mm-hmm. So given that, plus the fact that Ensworth playing their first game, and you can't substitute actual playing games. There's no scrimmages, and things like that. So I think CPA will have a slight edge on that. Talent-wise, I think the two teams are probably pretty close, pretty equal.
The big question I have, the Gerard Bullock, the quarterback, graduated. Keyshawn Lawrence graduated. I mean, they lost some talent, and there's some big questions there. You've got you've got someone going to be starting their first time ever at quarterback, and whereas you've got CPA playing their 3rd game this season. I think that is, to me, a deciding factor in week 1 for this game. I go CPA 24, Ensworth 7.
Yeah, playing CPA is not the defense you want to throw a first-time quarterback. Riverdale didn't exactly have a first-time quarterback. He'd had a couple of games under his belt, but you can ask them about that right now. I'm going to go CPA 24, Ensworth 14.
Okay. Game I believe you're at this week, Independence is at Blackman.
Blackman is a weird team. They've had some new players that have joined the team the last few weeks. You got to get some unity. You got to get some cohesiveness when players join your team. And they're obviously talented players, or Kid Hartsfield wouldn't be playing them right off the bat. I think that week 4 here, you're going to see a little bit more involvement with some of these players. You're going to see a little better offense, I think, from the Blaze. They had a cushion game last week against Coffee County where the offense finally got a chance to put up some numbers. Indy's a lot better team, obviously, than Coffee County. But I think you're going to look at a lot better Blackman team than you saw week 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think with you saw a team last week in Blackman. They got the offense going. First 2 weeks, obviously Alcoa and Ravenwood, a lot of people are going to lose to those teams. But it picks up again, and I guess you look at it also. All right, if you lose this game, you're 1-3. But let's be honest, you're exactly where you were a year ago when you finished 2nd. So they do have a very tough schedule. Kit Hartsfield did not do himself a great service by scheduling Alcoa, Ravenwood, and Independence in the first 4 weeks of the season. But I think that was not really. I think he had to do something similar to that. Independence, Jackson Campbell is going to be the player to watch. I think he's a wide receiver converted to quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. He can take off running. He can throw the ball pretty well. Kit is going to have to find a way for that defense, to me, to kind of contain him and make him a pocket passer. If they can do that, I think they have a good shot of win number 2 this week.
I'm going to go with win number 2 for Blackman. I've got a pretty high-scoring game, 28-24 Blackman.
I went high-scoring as well, but I went the other way. Team Wilco, Independence 35, Blackman 21. Next game, Briarcrest at MBA. Similar to Ensworth, this is MBA's first time on the field in a regular season game. They set out the first 3 weeks. They get a Briarcrest team that's 2-1, coming off a loss to a surprisingly, really, I think they're going to be a surprise this year all season, JP2. So JP2's 3-0. But anyway, JP2 beats Briarcrest last week for their first loss. NBA is a different team from Ensworth. This is an NBA team that made it to Cookeville last year and has several key pieces back. Most importantly, you get Marcel Reed, son of TSU football coach Rod Reed, at quarterback. Marcel started about week 4, I want to say, somewhere around week 3, week 4, week 5. As their starting quarterback, and took over and did a really good job. He's gotten stronger. He's a 2-sport athlete. He's already gotten some, I think, a Kentucky football offer maybe. I mean, he's already getting some college football looks as a sophomore. I like him. Patrick Wilk is back at running back. Nas Cook and Lucien Brunetti, Coach Brunetti over at Pearl Cone. His son is there. He's a receiver. I think this team is really good, and Coach Uverard does a great job. I'm going to say NBA is going to win this one 24-7.
I've got NBA winning 21-17.
The Bishop's Cup, one of the top rivalry games in the area. Father Ryan, they travel to Pope John Paul II. This is DC Tabscott, the kid, the quarterback at Father Ryan, who's going to Appy State. This is him versus Antoine Roberts, the running back at JP2 going Wisconsin. They got 2 high-level offensive guys, and yes, they'll never see each other on the field together, but it's going to be an interesting game. And you go back to the whole conversation, this is Father Ryan's first football game of the season, whereas JP2, they're 3-0. They've already beat a Lipscomb team. They've beaten a Smyrna team. They've traveled down to Briarcrest, so they're already battle-tested. I believe the last several games, though, have come down to the wire. At least regular season games have come down to the wire. This is a really interesting rivalry game.
And JP2, obviously a great player in Roberts, but JP2 is no stranger to having great players in their history. Golden Tate came from there. His brother Wesley Tate played there. Now, they've had some outstanding talent, but this may be Pope John Paul's best team since the school opened in the early 2000s. I was really impressed with last week's win over Briarcrest. I think that's going to go a long way to kind of making a statement this year for them. And like you said, Father Ryan playing their first game. This is a rivalry. I like JP2 all the way in this game. I'm going JP2 30-20.
Okay, I agree with you. I think the Briarcrest game is a monumental game for this team to get into the playoffs. Because you remember now, not every team in D2 AAA make the playoffs. Only 8 teams go, so there's 3 or 4 teams. I guess there's like 3 teams that won't be in the playoffs. I like JP2, but I'm going to stick with the tradition that this game comes down to perhaps the last play of the game or the last series. I'm going JP2 24, Father Ryan 21. Franklin at Summit, two different style quarterbacks take over here. Connor Bevan from Franklin's got over 600 yards passing. Destin Wade from Summit, he's got 515 yards passing, but also 384 rushing. Don't think he hasn't played a lot of the first game. He had to play the whole game, but the last couple of weeks, I think he's been able to probably rest a little bit more. So it's going to be an interesting situation. Of course, Franklin, they're 1-2, lost to Ravenwood last week. Thoughts on this game?
Franklin's had a tough schedule to start the season as well. They've also had to play Riverdale early in the season. They're putting up points, but the big thing is they haven't been able to stop a lot of teams they played so far. I think this is going to be kind of similar to the Independence Summit game where there's going to be a lot of points put on the board. I'm going with Franklin. I'm going with Summit 35-27.
I'm going to go Summit as well, 28-14. I think Summit might be the 4th best public school team in Williamson County. After maybe third best. I take that back, third best besides Ravenwood, Brentwood, and then probably Summit right now. Hendersonville at Beach. Beach 2-1. Opened the season with a disappointing, heartbreaking loss at Powell. Since then, they've turned it around with an impressive win over Henry County. Then they beat Laverne last week on their home field finally. Hendersonville, they had a week 2 game. Week 1, they lost to Oakland. Week 1, or week 2, they lost, or the game never got in. I can't remember what they did last week or if they played, but big rivalry game. You're used to this. You know this rivalry. What's your thoughts?
You're right. It's a huge rivalry. Beach has quite a few huge rivalries around Sumner County, but if you ask any coach or any player around the team, they will say this is the one they want to win every year. The Beach is playing well. They could easily be 3-0. They're one of the top teams in 5A. It's 5A versus 6A, but you can throw out 6A in a case like this.
I like Beach. Tyson Jefferson having a great season for Beach already. Traditional, Anthony Crabtree team. They want to run the football. They've got multiple people that can run the football. I like Beach to win this game 28-10.
I like Beach 37-28.
Henry County at Brentwood. This is a very intriguing game. If I could clone myself multiple times, this would be a game I would like to attend this week. Henry County, of course, beat Brentwood at Henry County last season. Brentwood had a week off last week when Dixon County had to cancel due to COVID. I would think, I don't know for sure right now, but I would think that helps the health of Walker Merrill, who did not play against Brentwood Academy in their only loss, I think he had a slight, some sort of tweak to a hamstring there. I think hopefully, now going into almost 3 weeks off, that helps him. Hopefully he can get on the field there. The Odom, Henry County's got some talented players. Got a kid going to Memphis, the Odom's kid. But Brentwood, Kate Granzow, love him at quarterback. Really, really good dual threat running and throwing guy. I like Brentwood 27-21 in what could be one of the best games played this weekend.
Yeah, that should be an outstanding game. If Merrill plays, I have no problem with Brentwood winning this game. I'm going to go Brentwood 28, Henry County 21.
Okay. I've got them missing an extra point. Sorry, guys. Or maybe it's just hitting 2 field goals, and maybe that's what they do. Mount Juliet at Gallatin. This is an old school rivalry game. This is an old school matchup. In the newspaper business, say, hey, these are two great areas. Really power from Wilson County playing a power from Sumner County. Mount Juliet and Gallatin both undefeated, both playing really good football. Watched Mount Juliet in person on Friday against Lebanon. Conlon Baggett, great game there, like 175 yards, a touchdown. They had a couple other kids that can run the football as well. Quarterback can throw the ball. It's a typical Trey Perry Mount Juliet football team. They want to run the football. They've got an offensive line that can let them run the football, and I think Mount Juliet wins this game 17-14.
Yeah, back in the day, these were the best two teams in their respective district. From the 70s through the 80s, and then districts started getting shaken up a little bit. Classifications changed some. I don't know if it's as big a rivalry as it used to be. Back in the day when Mount Juliet players would wear Wave Buster shirts all week, the week of the Gallatin game. But it's still, this year it could be as good a matchup as it's been. Mount Juliet's back on track, it seems, with Coach Perry. Gallatin's playing as well as it was last year, and it had an outstanding year last year. I'm going to go Mount Juliet in a close one, 20-17.
This is interesting because, like you just said, there were a number of years Mount Juliet was not very good, and then they've turned things around. And then the last few years, Gallatin hadn't been very good, and Chad Watson comes in and he's turned things around. Hopefully, this is a game that can continue to be played for years because it should be played. But I'm going to go Mount Juliet 17-14 in what could be a great game down the wire. Pulaski Academy at Ravenwood. This is Pulaski Academy is based out of Arkansas. This is the team that never punts. They go onside kick every time. This is the game that, they play different. This is a different style game. Any reporter that goes to this game will need to have extra paper and extra pens because you will write a lot of things down because there will be a lot of plays that happen this week.
This is basically a Madden game.
Exactly. This is a Madden high school football game. Ravenwood quarterback there, Trevor Andrews. They haven't missed a beat since the loss of Brian Garcia. Trevor Andrews, like 12 touchdowns, not a single interception this season. I like Ravenwood to figure out how to win this game, but I think there will be a lot of points scored. I'm going to say Ravenwood 45, Pulaski Academy 42, and this is the second year in a row that this game will be played at Ravenwood. That was part of the deal to get this game scheduled.
Well, Ravenwood put up 61 points last year, lost a lot of talent from that team, but what a heck of a job Coach Daniels has done reloading this team up. You're right, they haven't missed a beat. I'm going to go a lot of points in this one as well. I'm going Ravenwood 49-42.
Moore County at Forest. Don't talk a lot about either one of these teams, but Moore County 3-0, Forest 2-1. Chris White, the head coach at Moore County, been at Riverdale, been at Oakland, been at Knoxville Catholic, but this is his first chance at a head coaching position. And Kyle Parker, 243 yards passing for them last week with 4 touchdowns in a win over Cornersville, and that's a huge region game. So I like Moore County in this game. I like it a close one, 4-0, 21-20. I'm thinking this could be a nail biter.
That's actually pretty relative to my score. Moore County's had a great year. Forest had a great defensive effort last week and a win over Eagleville, a huge region win for them. I don't see a lot of points being scored in this game, but I think the defense does not make a couple things happen. There might be some short fields. I'm going Moore County 23-21.
That's our top 10 games, I believe. And Cecil, we had a good week last week. No rain. We had, but I don't know about you. I got rained on Friday in Murfreesboro before I went to my game, and I thought, oh my goodness, here we go again. Then it cleared up. It ended up being a beautiful night for high school football. Our first good Friday night.
It was about as good a weather night as you could expect all year. So, I think we got another good one coming up this week, then probably rain for the rest of the year because this is 2020.
Oh, we don't talk about that. No more rain.
I'm just saying.
We no more rain.
Rain. Expectations low.
My parka is in my car at all times. The rain pants have not showed up yet, so hopefully before this rain comes back that you're speaking of, that can come in. But on to week 4, I feel more and more confident that we're going to make it through. 16 weeks of football.
I agree with you on that. I think the big question now is, will some of these other areas come on board? Will Shelby County and Davidson County come on board?
All right, folks, that's all we've got for today. We'll see you next week on the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans.